All right, guys, welcome back. This is Raph. I'm live here at Zero Trust World 2026 with a OG. Can I call you an OG? You've been around for a while.
I've been around for a while.
Just a minute or so.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know that I'd call myself an OG. People like Jeff Mann are what I consider OGs, but
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mediocre G.
Mid-level?
Mid-level.
Mid-level. All right. Tell people who you are and what you do.
Yes, I'm Philip Wiley. I'm an offensive security professional. Been in cybersecurity 22 years as of January. Before that, I spent 6 years as a system administrator. Most of my background's in offensive security, worked in consulting. I'm a podcaster, so I host the Philip Wiley Show and Simply Offensive.
Love it.
Wrote the book, The Pentester Blueprint, about starting
so you've done
careers
this
in pen testing.
podcasting before.
Yeah, I've done that before, yeah. I hosted 89 episodes last year of podcasts. So
You beat me. I do one a week, so I did 52.
Yeah.
But this show is now 16 years old.
Okay.
It's able to drive. If it was a person, it could drive. All right, your talk was on IoT stuff.
Yes.
Talk to us about IoT.
Yeah, so the inspiration of this talk, I was working for a company that had an OT and IoT security product. And one of the things that kind of reminded me when I was there, I heard about the Acura ransomware attack, how they breached the IP camera to gain access to the internal IT resources. And it kind of reminded me of some of the stuff we do as pen testers, attacking printers to get creds and that kind of stuff. So I saw the need for the talk because a lot of times people don't really see that it's a threat. They think if your IoT or OT gets exploited, it's only those systems, and they don't think about the traditional IT infrastructure being breached.
Well, it's the place you can't put an agent on, generally speaking.
Yep.
It's the place that firmware updates and software updates are an afterthought. It's the forgotten dark corner of the network of your infrastructure. It's like a giant wide open door. As a pen tester, you must love that.
Yeah. Plus, default creds are usually, people don't change the default creds sometimes.
Nobody changes default credentials. Why? Why don't people change it?
And a lot of times they don't rotate. Even if they did change the credentials, they don't rotate passwords. And once these passwords are part of a breach, then threat actors are using those passwords. And
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're at a conference called Zero Trust World, talking about IoT. This feels a little weird, right? Because you have to trust these devices. They run your HVAC. They make your calendar. They drive your car. All sorts of widgets and things. But the security control. It's 2026. Shouldn't we have better security controls around these things by now?
You would think, yeah.
It still seems to be an afterthought.
I think it's just underestimated. People don't really see the threat of it. And one of the things too, when you're doing pen tests, you do internal pen tests and you do different types of pen tests to kind of emulate the insider threat.
Yeah.
And IoT and devices are an insider threat.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, because it's just sitting there. All too often, these things have unfettered access to the internet.
Yes. Yeah.
And from the internet.
Yeah. One of the things that it reminds me is, got a friend, won't go into details of their name because I don't know if they've totally released all this information, but they had a streaming box. Their dad bought this streaming box to free stream content, and she said, where'd you get this? And so she started looking into it. She bought one herself to do research and found out that, it's a Chinese built device. And one thing she noticed was during geopolitical events, the activity of phoning home to China was more frequent. And so people are putting stuff like this in their homes or on their networks and not really taking the risk, because the US government was so worried about TikTok. And that time when that came out, I'm more worried about some of this Chinese hardware that we have because it's actually intercepting and monitoring traffic on your network.
Yeah. Well, and your TV knows everything you watch and do.
Yes. Yeah.
Which could very easily get into what political parties do you follow if you watch the content and all that. What things are you predisposed to? What kind of nutty things do you have rolling around in your brain? Easy to then mount a campaign to get you to do things. It's a little staggering to me that this far into the lifespan of cybersecurity, IoT and specifically OT, the technology that runs shop floors and power plants and cash registers and stuff, is still so poorly protected. Are you seeing any sort of uptick in the defenses around these things?
There's some products that are coming out, because I used to work for a product company that had a software that would look for default credentials. It would change the credentials and periodically rotate the credentials and actually update it. They did not do that on OT because they're worried about breaking a device and causing a lot of expense. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that it's not taken more serious. You know, you'd think there'd be more controls and stuff in place. I think there are people out there doing it, but just getting the adoption from the industry to actually do something about it. I think that the security budget spread so thin, maybe it's hard for them to get a piece of the pie to secure those devices.
But it continues to happen, and I think some of this stuff is that the devices that are out there aren't always under management by the IT teams, right? Sometimes, like, particularly I'm thinking industrial controls scenarios, where IT doesn't always even know that those devices are on the network, right? I remember, and this is years ago, I went and toured a shop floor where they assembled transmissions, parts of a car, and we're walking through, and the CIO tells me that they have 8,000 devices or something on their network that they're needed to protect, and I kept thinking, I'm like, I count more than that on this shop floor as I walk by. Oh, that's a device. I was like, well, what about all that? He goes, oh, no, we don't count those. It's like, but that's a Windows NT box. Like, that's the first thing you should count. Yeah, out of scope for this, for whatever they were doing, and it just sort of makes me think that we still undervalue the amount of damage a tiny little device in an actuator can cause on the rest of your infrastructure.
And you think of these organizations, sometimes there's more of those connected devices than there are people
100%.
On laptops.
100%, yeah. And it's nuts because, again, you can't put an agent on it. Sometimes you're not even aware that it's there. Yeah. It ends up being the gateway. And I can't tell you how many times early on in my career, scan a network, look at a list of devices and go, can't tell what that is. Never seen that before in my life. Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so facility. You drive out there, you're looking at MAC addresses, flying wires. You're like, oh hey, what in God's creation is this thing? Oh, it's a punch card device that keeps time for laborers that come in and boop, boop, punch the clock, walk out. It's got an IP address on it. Yeah. Like, this thing was last updated back in my teenage years. It's like, okay. Good news is there's probably not an existing attack for it. The bad news is there's also no existing defenses for it. Yeah. So, like, where do you go with that? Right?
And then you think of some of these devices that came out, because I remember around 2015, 2016, there was some IoT devices out there, hardware that was running firmware with the credentials were embedded in.
I worked for one of those companies.
And so at the time there wasn't a way to change it, so you'd have to update firmware. And so when they make it that complicated for people to upgrade passwords, they're not going to do it.
Nobody's going to do it. Yeah. When we talk about IoT, OT, and essentially maybe headless devices, those types of things, how does that fit, in your opinion, in your understanding, into something like a zero trust model? Because we're at a conference called Zero Trust World, right? We're talking IoT, OT. How does that fit in, aside from
Yeah, I think it's really important to be practicing your network segmentation. And the nice thing about IoT is that people are using these devices at home. It's pretty easy to put them all on a VLAN separate to stay away from your computing devices and stuff. But gets into the organizations, then you got to practice your network segmentation, and then maybe even set up your firewall rules. Like in the case with a device phone home to China, maybe you set up some rules to prevent outbound traffic from the device. And so
so Rob and I were talking about this before he started messing with my recording. He's funny like that. We were talking about just the notion that if you can understand what something's doing, right, their whole allow by exception model, like, that doesn't exist in the IoT OT world, except at the perimeters, at the borders between security zones, and hopefully sometimes inside them. But like east-west traffic in an OT environment is not the easiest thing to protect, because unless you segment it, and you got firewall. I remember those days. I lived those days. You firewall everything from everything else, and suddenly you've got 2,900 firewalls to manage. You're like, okay, we just made the problem just as difficult on ourselves, because now you've got policy on policy and policy on policy, segmentation. Nobody really understands how traffic goes between here and here. And that creates other problems as well. Have you seen any really good approaches to keeping like IT/OT, IoT/OT stuff from eating itself or eating the environments it's dropped in?
As far as segmenting and stuff, I haven't really seen anything for that. Just products that will update passwords, update firmware, monitor, do vulnerability scans against it, and that type of thing. But I think just basic hygiene goes a long way, because
that's fair.
It's non-existent. So at least that's some reduction.
Yeah, that's fair. This feels like a situation where the risk the risk is fairly significant, and I don't know if we're ignoring it is the right word, but I think everybody assumes somebody else is taking care of this. Maybe a little bit of out of sight, out of mind mentality.
Yeah.
I suspect we're going to see more bad things happen from the IoT/OT world.
I think you will, because one of the things that's happening, especially you look at the Kira ransomware attack, they were able to exploit, breach a edge device, gain access, could connect to internal devices, but when they tried to drop their ransomware on the desktop, it quarantined it. So then they went to the camera. The camera is not being monitored. There's no EDR on the camera. Then they were able to do SMB share and connect that way. So I mean, it's getting more difficult for threat actors to get a foothold. So they're going to other areas to try to gain the foothold.
It's easier.
And so IoT and that type of stuff in OT is just going to be a bigger risk.
Yeah, I don't see that changing, especially as you start seeing more automation. We talk about AI. AI gets dropped into, it's going to start being dropped into these small devices, right?
Yeah.
As they create local AI instances on local hardware everywhere. I can't imagine how ugly that's going to be in 6 months, 12 months. Yeah. It's not just going to be an actuator or a barcode scanner or a cash register. It's going to be a limited, maybe an agentic, right, with a limited scope, but still able to do a whole lot on a device out there, and still no way to quantify it, classify it, protect it.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. And then you hear some of the stuff with AI where people are just sending emails to the environment where someone's using AI or drive-by, where you go through and view that page, or you download an email and it's sending AI commands to do things internally.
Yeah, I've seen some of the papers published, blog posts and stuff published on that. It's getting, look, we're standing at a point where the global macro environment is looking shakier and less certain, which means that budgets shrink. The number of tools we have out there that we're allowed to keep in our farms, in our environments, has to shrink because we're letting people go. The threats rise. I don't see this ending well.
No, I don't. It doesn't look very well. And plus, also, you look at some environments where companies have all these tools, but they're not implemented correctly. They've got several different EDRs, but they're not configured right, or they're not using it. I mean, one pen test I did for an organization once, and they had a very knowledgeable CISO in the organization. They were getting routine training, but I was doing a black box threat actor approach pen test where we went in. We had the physical pen testing was part of it. We got on site. It was the last day of the pen test, and it got to where we had to hurry up and get this done. We only had 8 hours left. So I was running vulnerability scans and Nmap scans internally. They should have been detected. It wasn't detected. They didn't even know we were on site until 12 hours later.
Oh.
So they found out Saturday morning that we were there. And if we were true threat actors, we could have exfilled whatever data we wanted and wreaked whatever havoc. I was able to create an account on one of the systems. And so that kind of stuff's out there. And a lot of times people don't have those devices tuned properly to detect that. You know, you take that Akira ransomware attack somewhere else, they wouldn't have had to attack the camera. They could have spread the ransomware because their EDR is not detecting things.
It's going to be interesting.
Yes.
Thanks for taking a couple minutes to talk.
You're welcome.
And folks, stay tuned. There'll be more.